guitar players, and welcome back to the Guitar in a Year, Beginner to Intermediate. I'm your instructor, Korey Hicks, and today we are on week number 48. We're going to be discussing some improvising strategies. The backing track you heard at the beginning of this lesson is simply C major, although I am playing a lot of the chords from C major, so we have C, and then a C over E, going to an F chord. That happens twice. The second time it goes to the G. And then we have an E minor, and then an A minor, and then a D minor, and then a G7. So when you're playing over a backing track, what you need to be doing is thinking of each individual chord. We call this playing over the changes. That means that there are notes that are going to work over C major, but they may not work over the D minor, for example, and we're going to investigate that today. So, if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. Head on over to Patreon for the PDF for this lesson. There's also going to be a backing track over there, the same one I used at the beginning of this lesson, so that you can play along and try some of the concepts that we're talking about today. So first of all, let's talk about C major itself, okay? So C, E, and G. That means anywhere on the neck that I have C, E, and G is a C major chord. There's a C, E, and a G. So when I'm playing over the C major part, I want to outline that shape. There are certain notes that are not going to be acceptable over that. The note F is one. So let me play an F note and the E note in the C major chord. Remember, the third is the most important note of the chord at the same time. You see how that sounds really nasty? We don't want to be doing that. So am I saying when you're playing over a C major chord, avoid the note F? Yeah, and we actually call that an avoid tone. Now, you can still play it. Like I started off with the F there. But you're going to use it with caution. Okay, so there's going to be avoid notes for every single chord in the scale, and we're going to have to deal with those individually. The next chord in the backing track is C over E. And that's just giving us some sort of motion within the chord progression. On our way to F. And I can play that as this cage shape if I want. So the notes of F major are F, A, and C. So this is where our triadic playing can come into effect. So I could play C major triads over that first two chords, and then when I get to F, play some F major triads. I had a student yesterday who was telling me that he finally had the light bulb moment when it came to triads, because he was still practicing them like that. They're for melodic purposes. So when I'm playing over an F major triad, I want to use the tones from that chord. So let me put it to you this way. This is actually a really important thing. So if I have a 7-note scale, we're in the key of C major, so I have the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. And I'm playing over the notes C, E, and G. Wouldn't it be awesome if there was a scale that was only the most important notes of the chord, the C, E, and G, and took out all the rest of the filler and the avoid tones? That's a 3-note chord. That's a 3-note scale. You see what I mean? So triads are not these little shapes that you strum. They're 3-note scales. They're like a bullseye when you're improvising. So if I'm playing over a C major chord, I can go, and I'm playing the very specific notes of that chord in triadic form, see? That way I can really isolate the most important pitches. And then when it goes to the F chord, I can do the same thing. And then when it goes to the G chord, I can do the same thing there. So this is a really good way to find the money notes when you're playing. Now, C major is C, E, G, F major is F, A, C, G major is G, B, D. I didn't say any sharps or flats, so they are all still inside a C major scale. This is why just playing the scale results in you kind of being bored and just like, well, it just kind of sounds like a scale. I'm just kind of meandering around. Because that's not really what music is. Music is about melodies, and melodies are played over chords. And so we have to have the most important content of that chord being played. Now, there's other things I could do too, like I bring out the 9 in my C major. Brings out a little bit of what I would call, I don't know, maturity. It brings out a little bit of, not necessarily tension in that case, but it's just a little bit more color, I guess I would say. Okay, so the next part of the backing track goes to my E minor. Well, in the E minor, I want to play E, G, and B. In the improvisation there, I played an E minor 7 arpeggio. So an arpeggio is a 4-note scale that I can use over the chord. And I could have done that in the very beginning too. I could have played C major 7. And then over the F major, I could have played F major 7. And over the G7, I could have played the G dominant arpeggio, the G7 arpeggio. Okay, so the next part, we get to that E minor. And then where did it go next? It went to the A minor, right? And then next, it's going to go to our D minor. And then our G7. So you can hear how this is going to improve your solos. You're going to be actually pinpointing the exact notes that you need to play at any given time. So it's something that mature players do, something you're definitely going to want to start practicing as you get into the intermediate portion of your playing career. So you have to be thinking about the tones. You have to be thinking about the intervals. When I'm playing over C major, I'm thinking 1, 3, 5, and here's my 3, 5, 1. I'm thinking about which notes are those chord tones. And then as the chord changes, you're thinking of it there. So a lot of other musicians don't have this problem. Like when people learn how to play piano, they're actually looking down at their hands and they see the chord that they're playing. And then if they're improvising over that chord, they're just going to use the notes of that chord in their improvisation. So it seems really natural to do that. For guitar players, we don't really do that very much. I mean, for a lot of people, they learn this A minor pentatonic scale first, and people are like, just go ahead and just use any of the notes you want in there. It'll be fine. And that's not really the case. We have to be able to pinpoint the most important notes of the chord that we're playing over. This gets a lot more complicated later on. I might have to play something like a G13 flat 9 chord. So this is going to take this scale, which is a half whole diminished. And so I'd have to play harmonizing that scale over the chord. And so it gets pretty intense after a while. But in the beginning, we just have to think of the notes of the chord and really be cognizant and aware of what is happening underneath us. So in today's lesson, I want you to go and grab that backing track. I want you to start experimenting with the elements of the C major scale. C major things over the C major chord. D minor things over the D minor chord, E minor things over the E minor chord, the F major, the G7, so on and so forth. I have every chord in the key represented, so you are going to be able to use everything that you've learned so far to play over that. Try recording yourself and trying to come up with a really good solo for this. You don't have to be playing fast or flashy or anything like that. The idea is that you are aware of the chord underneath you and you are able to play over it confidently. This may require you to memorize the chord changes. This may require you to be able to play the rhythm guitar portion first before improvising. Problem that a lot of players have is they pull up a backing track online, but they're not learning the chords. They're just soloing over it. As a prerequisite to any soloing or improvisation that you do, you should play the chords and know the tune, know the chord progression so that you know what's happening. How else are you supposed to know what to do over it? And get out of your mind the idea that all I have to do is play the scale in the key that I'm in and I'm going to be totally fine. There's going to be a lot of things that we learn, little secrets that we learn about improvisation in the intermediate course. One of them I think is really incredible is going to be playing the major seventh of the key. So for example, if I'm in C major, all I have to do is find that C and go a half step down. And that's going to be the major third of the 5 chord, which is a really important note to pull out. It's what's going to make our 5 chord cadence to our 1 chord. So knowing where that is in all places the neck, I'm just finding the B note by sliding up to the C and going back a half step. little tricks like that are going to be really helpful for navigating the fretboard when you are improvising. All right, well, that's going to be it for today. Next lesson, we're going to start working on our first and second solos out of the Modern Method book and start preparing for our final performance exam in weeks 51 and 52. I hope you have a great day. Happy practicing. Put any comments or questions you have below. Head on over to Patreon for the rest of the lesson materials, and I'll see you in the next video. Have a great day. Peace.